court. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Lewis and the Parish, and Mr. Lewis in prayer. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please restore the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
First, I would say good night.
My first,
Yes. Oh, sorry. Number one.
but I don't have any bad news this morning. Somebody had asked me if I had bad news. I have no bad news. A couple of things I just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed in at this point in time is mainly dealing with health insurance. This particular sheet of paper here, if you'll turn to the third page, I apologize for the small numbers on there, but they sent us this report. Now, just wanted to kind of call your attention where we are at this point. The block below the middle part of that page shows the 12 months ending February of 2019. And at that point, there was 2,183,000 of premium taken in by Blue Cross, and they paid out 2,500,000 in claims. The numbers above that is running 12 months ending February of 2020, this past February, and the numbers are better. They took in 2,303,000 of premium, and they paid out 2,176,000 in claims. So the experience is down to 94.5%. Just for your information, they would like to see it somewhere between 80 and 85%. That's where they shoot for. Last year, of course, we were over that number, 115%. This year, we're a little bit under that. So hopefully the trend continues. And the renewal coming out for September 1st, we should know the numbers on that around the first part of June. We've had, for the new members, we've had probably around 5.1% increase last year and the previous year. So it's been running about a 5% rate increase, which is, as rate increases go, that's pretty good because some rate increases in the past have been as high as 23%. So hopefully we don't come anywhere near those kind of numbers, but we'll know where we stand the first part of June. Any questions on those numbers at this point?
I got one question.
Okay.
Is the, when you talk about premium paid in, is that the insurance figuring up the profits they have to make with the premium?
The numbers you see right there are the actual billed premium to the parish, and that's what the parish has paid out. The claims that they paid out is after the discounts. They're contracted with the hospitals and the providers, so the numbers that they have paid out are those actual numbers after the discounts.
So I was just wondering, like, you know, the premium is the figure that they have to have to make a profit, right?
That's what they're hoping when they develop the premium, that they anticipate the claims will come under that, and that's that 80 or 85% that they're hoping. Nobody has a crystal ball to know where claims are gonna go. Sometimes they go in a positive, sometimes a negative.
I always thought, I always wondered about that when the premium is, had to be figured in.
Right. It's like opening a store and selling a product, and all of a sudden you find out you didn't figure the light bill was gonna be twice as much as it was, so then you gotta change what you're selling your product for. So that's basically what happens here, is they figure on a premium that's gonna cover the expenses and the claims, and if something happens that the claims are higher than they anticipated, then that's gonna change the premiums going forward. And that's hopefully what we're looking at June the 1st, is that the claims will be in line where they won't increase the premiums. And as I mentioned, they have increased them by 5% the last couple of years, which as a trend goes, is a pretty good increase. I mean, it's a good thing. Some of the increases out there are pretty significant. We did a booklet, just kind of up to date, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but it gives information regarding the benefits, employee benefits. It also has inside the cover, if you notice, up to date new pictures. And if there's anything that you feel like we should change, add to it, or anything, be sure to let us know. But we're going to give these out to the employees. I think it does a good job in giving them the information at their fingertips, as far as waiting periods and costs of the products. It also shows the premium, which is a zero in most cases, for their benefits the parish is paying for. And that's a big, big benefit that they hopefully will appreciate, because health insurance today, as you know, is getting a little ridiculous price-wise.
I agree.
Any questions?
I think that's all.
Good. If there are any questions at any time, my numbers are in that booklet, so feel free to call. Thank you.
All right, next, I'm going to give the Cameron Fisheries updates.
Claire, you want to begin?
Good morning, gentlemen. So I am very happy to let you guys know that, so not only as the director of the Cameron Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District, but as a resident of the parish, that the port selected an operator for the fisheries facility, the Community Development Block Grant RETA funded project here in Cameron, the fisheries project. The board selected an operator at its January meeting. That is Tommy's Seafood. I have in my hands right now the executed operators agreement between the Cameron Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District and the operator, Tommy's Seafood. And this operator being able to get to this point, to be selected, took a lot of time and energy and effort to create a situation where all of us were ready for an operator to come in. And so I'd like to thank the jury staff and our legal counsel, the district attorney, for making that happen. Before I introduce the representative for Tommy's Seafood, who will come up in just a bit, I wanted to ask you, Ms. District Attorney, if you have a statement you'd like to make about the project, or let them know how things went.
These people have operated a successful business in St. Bernard Parish for many years, and we've been looking for somebody with some Gulf Coast experience, because we felt that was essential to the success of the operation. They worked very hard with me, and the Henry family has also worked very hard in getting this deal put together with all three the parish, the landowner, the port, and the operator. And I think we've got something really great here for the parish, and I'm really glad to welcome him here. And I want to thank Ms. Katie who got all this going, and thank you both.
And Daryl too, absolutely, and Mary. There were a lot of people working on this. So Shallon, if you'd like to come up. So yeah, so you're gonna see a lot of Shallon's face. I know I've heard his face a lot and talked to him a lot on the phone. You'll see that he's very impressive along with the rest of the team. So Shallon serves as Tommy's Seafood's Executive Vice President. He's also in the midst of pursuing his Master's of Business Administration from Tulane University. His primary responsibilities with Tommy's Seafood include product procurement, sales, and marketing. As the chairman of the Louisiana Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board, yay for us, and vice chairman of the Wildlife and Fisheries Crab Task Force, again, yay for us, Shallon is an advocate for the Louisiana seafood industry. And what I'd like for you to do, Shallon, if you're comfortable with that, is not only introduce the team members who are here with you from Tommy's Seafood this morning, but also feel free to share perhaps your approach. And I would imagine that the jurors will have a couple questions, but we've talked about how historic this is. I'm really glad that Shallon is young and up to this challenge because I'm really hopeful that this is going to work out really well for our fishermen here. So, Shallon?
Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you all to the police jury, to Katie, Claire, to our district attorney. This was, quite honestly, a big collaborative effort. We couldn't have done it without the community support and without all of y'all's support. I believe that we first gained interest in this project last year sometime in June. So fast forward from June last year to present day, that's how long it's taken us to get to this point. So we're excited to be here. We're excited to be a part of this community. And although our roots are not from here, we are excited to be planted here and to do what we can for Cameron Parish, for the seafood industry here. I've got with me today my father, Tommy, my brother, Daniel, both of which are very involved in the company that my mother and father started in 1981. As the district attorney said a little while ago, my parents founded our company in St. Bernard Parish. We have several facilities now between Orleans Parish and St. Bernard Parish. So we have our own unloading facility in Bayou Bienvenue, several dozen fishermen in our fleet that work with us, and processing facilities in Bayou Bienvenue in the Port of St. Bernard and Lake Pontchartrain in Orleans Parish. So we've been doing this a long time. We feel confident that we're going to be able to do what it takes to nurture the seafood industry here back to where it was and hopefully better than before. And that's our intent here, is to do right by the people. And so with that, I welcome any questions. Oh yeah, absolutely.
We just happy to have y'all. We've been having a building sitting out there and I've been parking almost monthly.
No.
We need somebody to open our shop up.
Well, we've officially assigned the agreement today, and we plan on getting in there immediately. Our firm expectation is to be up and running for the upcoming shrimp season. And we are not limiting this operation to shrimp. So we'll be buying anything that swims in that water. And we've got the resources to do so. And all it takes now is just the willing participation of our company, which is right there, and the fishermen who are going to be the key in the success to this business, to this industry here. And that's really, I think, what we feel most strongly about nurturing the most is the people here. We've had a chance through these past several months to be able to talk to many of the fishermen and hear their concerns, and I think it's been a great forum for them to have their voices heard. And so we've taken that to heart. We've taken that to the strategy of how we're going to build the business here in Cameron Parish. And it's going to revolve ultimately around the fishermen and making sure that the fishermen are being taken care of the way that they need to.
John, what date, y'all have a date?
The upcoming shrimp season, so as soon as that's set, whether it be late May, early June, whenever the zone opens here,
Will we see y'all around there doing something, get things ready, or?
So there's already been work being done. Of course, it's been mostly behind the scenes on our end, just because of the simple fact that this agreement wasn't made official until today. But we're going to be hitting the ground running. Of course, there's some capital expenditures that we're going to be making, some investments that we're going to be making on our end to get this facility where it needs to be. And so that will be starting immediately. We've already got a management team in place. Terry and Kate Piku, who I believe you know well, will be managing the day-to-day operations of our facility for us. And we believe that's vital to the interest of Cameron Parish and to the interest of this operation to be able to have locals who know the industry and who know the people here to develop those kind of relationships with. So there's already been a lot of work done behind the scenes, and now I believe that you're going to be seeing that brought to light, and we, as I said earlier, expect to be fully up and running for the upcoming shrimp season.
What about an advertising campaign? Y'all have a way to let everybody know that y'all open for business?
Oh, yes, sir. Well, I know that we have in the audience a wonderful journalist from the Cameron Pilot. So we expect that to take precedent here as far as a press release, but we'll be doing our own press release as well with Ed Lalo from Gulf Seafood News. We'll also have some press releases sent out in our local paper, and I'm sure that a project of this magnitude is something that's going to be spoken about for a little while. And then, of course, we'll be having a grand opening ceremony sometime either late April or early May, hopefully in late April, where we'll have the presence of the Lieutenant Governor, possibly the Governor, and a lot of other people that were really instrumental in bringing this project together. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to be, before the grand opening ceremony, we're going to be working with LSU Sea Grant to have a Meet the Fisherman Day, and it'll be a dock day as well. Sea Grant will come and bring in some equipment to show the fishermen, and it'll be a good opportunity for us to be able to connect with them. Many of them have heard of us, and vice versa, and so now they'll be able to put a face to the name. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item would be number 5, occupational tax.
Yes, good morning. And before I speak on the occupational tax, Shaylin had alluded to the fact that a lot of behind-the-scenes work has been ongoing since, he's mentioned last June, but it's actually been about 4 years of work behind the scenes. Daryl Williams has served as project manager on this project from day one. The finance and accounting department have been the ones administering the CDBG grants and processing the invoices and keeping everything flowing efficiently, making sure the minutes were paid. So I want to make sure that everyone acknowledged their behind-the-scenes efforts over the last 4 years as well. And we're very excited from the accounting standpoint and administrative standpoint that this is going to be open for shrimping season. So moving on to the occupational tax. The occupational tax, we have an ordinance, which is Article 2, Section 13. It's been an ordinance for many years. It has historically been administered by the Sheriff's Department, the tax collector. In an effort to streamline the permitting process for the public, we have had some preliminary discussions with the Sheriff's Department and with the permitting department about moving the administration of that license to the police jury office and the permitting, more specifically the permitting department. Like I said, it's just preliminary discussions on how we would manage that. If we were planning to do that with the consensus of the jury, if you were in full support of that, we would look at trying to have everything effective July 1st, which is at the end of the sheriff's fiscal year is June 30th. So we want to make sure we didn't overlap his fiscal year. So what I asked you today is if you can we don't have to take an action. I just kind of wanted to see how you as a jury felt about us moving forward with this and working out the more details, making sure that we are transferring everything. It would involve some reclassifications of existing staff who are going to take on these additional duties. It would also probably impact the accounting department a little bit. They'd have a little bit more deposits and accounting and record keeping. It would probably impact our auditor statement, because right now we just have one line item that says occupational tax. We get a check from the sheriff deposited, and that's the extent of the audit. If we were to take this on, it would probably impact our audit. It would be more expensive to conduct our legislative mandated audit, because we would have to track those licenses as well. But like I said, preliminary discussions with the staff, the permitting staff, with Miles, with the sheriff's department, everyone seems to feel like this would probably better serve the public. And so I asked for you guys to just provide some comment and let us know which direction you'd like us to take. If you want us to pursue it, or if you like the way things are running, then we will go ahead and kill the discussion.
Have we had any public outcry about it not functioning?
Not really in the public, like not at the juries, but it is, and Miles can probably tell you how inconvenient it is for the public. Anytime they come to get a development permit in their business, and if we adopt this food truck ordinance, it's going to impact them too. They come to the jury to get a permit. Well, then the permit department says, you need occupational license. You have to go to the sheriff's office, find that department, pay, come back to the police jury office, show that you have it. And so if we were to move it over here, it would kind of be like a one-stop shop for the public. They come to the permit department for everything, and it would improve the permitting process for businesses and development permitting.
Additional.
Monetarily, though, Katie, it's not gonna cost us anything.
Well, right now, the police jury is relinquishing 15% of total license to the sheriff's department. That's his payment for collecting it. He is willing to give that 15% of total taxes up, and so last year it was around $47,000. So we could offset the increased cost of collecting the tax with that new revenue that we would be collecting. We'd get to keep 100% of the occupational tax. But like I said, it's not really about the money for us, the sheriff and the police jury and the staff. We just want to better serve our community, make it easier for people to do business in Cameron, more attractive for them. And so this is one of the ideas that we've been having discussions about for the last month, trying to work out the details. The software that they use to collect the tax, well, to track the tax, we actually paid for it, the police jury, years ago, and the sheriff's just been paying the user fee, annual user fee. So they're able to transfer that over to the police jury, so we wouldn't have any investment in any new software. It would just pick up the user agreement, annual tax, the software license that we pay them, and they were willing to provide full support until we make sure that we get everything running and provide that technical support if needed.
We'll have to hire somebody.
No, sir. We are planning on, the occupational tax is either due the first 45 days that you apply for your business, and then after that, it's due February annually. So majority of the work is January, February, and then the rest of the year, it's just slow, it slowly trickles in. We can use existing staff to do that. And they're willing to take it on. They're actually excited about learning something new and broadening their job duties and their experience, their knowledge.
Are you're prepared to do that now?
Yes, sir. With, of course, your approval, if you guys want to move forward with it. We wouldn't officially take over till July 1st. We would utilize the next 3 months to get the software transferred to us, let the sheriff's office provide some technical assistance and training as needed, and I think we're ready to go July 1st. So I would ask in June for an immediate reclassification for the existing staff that's going to be taking on the additional duties. But like I said, that reclassification, the cost associated with that would be offset by the new revenue from that 15% that the sheriff was keeping to administer the same program.
Mr. President, I'd like to move forward with this, if possible.
It's on the agenda.
No, we don't have to take action today. I just wanted to present it. That way it was made public. We had time for the public to, if they were not okay with it, or if they had questions, they could call the staff. We could answer the questions, and then we would come back. If you're okay with us moving forward, we work out more of the finer details of how this is gonna be in-house, how we're gonna administer it, how we're gonna transfer it, get more dates associated with it, get the numbers, financial numbers together for you, and I'll come back and present it to you in May or June, and then ask for the reclassification of the existing staff. So there's no action today, just kind of wanted to see how you guys felt about it before we proceeded with doing all that.
I don't
Make sure it's something that you're supportive of.
Look, the funds from this is still going to the tourism commission.
No, this actually goes to the general fund. The one that goes to the tourist commission is the hotel motel tax, but it does get confused because it's occupancy tax. But this occupational tax is, we have a law in Cameron Parish, and I think it's a state law too, that if you do business in Cameron Parish, with the exception, I think, of video gaming, you're supposed to apply for an occupational tax. And they vary from $50 to $6,500, depending on what your gross retail sales are and revenue is.
I want to commend your staff. Because I used to run a department, and anytime I give them extra work, they weren't excited. They're taking on more work. So I want to commend your staff for that.
Well, I'll definitely-
something new.
Yeah, they are excited, and don't get me wrong, it's not that they don't have enough to do, because they do. They were just excited about the opportunity to learn something new and have something else that they can
I was just picking.
administer. Yeah, I'll let that staff know that.
Jealous.
You jealous?
Any other questions? Okay. All right, so we move on to number 6, improvements to at least for Beach Pavilion.
Okay, that's me again, and I think this is kind of on behalf of Mr. Scott Trahan's initial request. We've had some people, some of the citizens and residents in the Rutherford Beach area request that we outfit the pavilion with electricity and lights, something similar to what we had at the Jetty Pier. The pavilion, you can rent it, and it's the same thing at the Grand Chenier Park. If you wanted to rent it, it had everything it needed to have a band, to have auctions, to have fundraisers. So Monty Pierce, our facility maintenance tech, he got the quotes together. The cost associated with it is roughly $10,000, not to exceed $10,000. The only way that this would work is if, of course, we would have to keep the breaker box locked, and you would have to come to the beach board and rent the pavilion. And the beach board's just a voluntary board, so we offered to administer that rental for the beach board. So they would in turn come to the police jury and file for a rental agreement, sign it, and there could be a fee associated with it, and then they have liability insurance requirements. So if they're having a party, they have to get their own separate liability insurance. That way, if something happens, it's not the liability of the police jury.
How big is that pavilion?
I spoke with 3 of the 5 board members, and Ms. Joanne, I spoke with Ms. Kim, and
It's not big like 3
right, and really, if we invest the money on behalf of the beach board to outfit it and keep it locked, and no one ever uses it, well then, no, it's the same, it's being utilized the same way it always has been. Yes, we're out $10,000, but if the police jury ever wanted to use it for an event, it's capable of having it. If it does get utilized more, then that's a new revenue source for the beach board, and the beach board is so good about investing their money and providing something for the tourists to do, and they put a lot of effort into that pavilion, into the water, the shower, and so they didn't want to administer it. They're not adverse to it, they're not opposed to it. They just were a little bit worried about having to administer it. The police jury's doing it, then they said they would definitely consider it and support it. We would have to go to the beach board meeting at the end of the month and make sure that they were okay with it, and they would have to adopt the lease agreement and rental agreement and have some type of CEA. But before we move forward to the beach board, I just wanted to see how you guys felt about it and felt about investing the money for the beach board and letting our staff administer the lease agreements.
How much money they got in there,
I don't know how much they have right now at this moment, but I can get a report to you by the close of business today.
I mean, if that's
I can
something
get with them.
and they could, and they had some extra funds to fund it,
Mhm.
that would be good.
I'm on the beach board, and I think there's over $100,000 in that account.
And why you,
It's a 30 by 30 or 40 by 40, it's close to that.
Mhm.
please will make sure that investment is taken like they can.
Okay, I mean, we haven't actually, this is just something that was presented to the jury. Mr. Scott asked me to look into it, so if you're supportive, we're gonna go to the beach board and talk about the logistics of that and if they're gonna support it or not.
I just feel like as much as the parish can stay out of and let these beach boards and different boards pay their own
Mhm.
stuff and keep that separate, I guess maybe the better off we are as the jury. Yeah, they ain't got the money, they're
I
not.
think the building belongs to the parish is the reason why we have to.
It has to be insured every rental. It can't
The
be.
beach,
Right.
the parish built the pavilion? I mean.
The beach board paid for it, they funded it.
What beach board?
Mhm.
I would like to be able to look at whatever lease, whoever's gonna be renting it, to look at the lease, and if y'all are gonna be renting it, I wanna look at a CPA.
Okay.
Do you need me, I don't know if you have a form for lease of public buildings already, maybe.
Well, we have something for the multi-purpose building we just adopted, we were looking at utilizing, and then we have the Jetty Pier one that we've used before, so I can get you something.
Okay, great.
How much are they leasing for?
The Jetty Pier used to be leased for, I think, about $150 a day. Taylor, are you in here, do you remember that? It's $150 from my recollection, it's been a while since we leased it, but
And what kind of hours? What do you call it?
no, I mean, they would lease it, they would just, the Jetty Pier was usually rented for birthday parties, or the fishing festival would rent it and rent the entire facility, get their own liability insurance. We require, if you're gonna rent it and use the pavilion, we usually require you to get a liability insurance certificate on it, and it's very inexpensive to do that, but when we are having, we shouldn't say issues, because it's great that the Rutherford Beach Pavilion's being utilized, but we do have people that just show up and use it and have pretty big parties sometimes. Sometimes bands are playing, sometimes they're doing a Mardi Gras event. And because there's nothing for them to rent, it's just there for public use, we have a lot of extra people on there who could be open to getting hurt out there. And we have, the parish would be 100% liable. So at least if we are gonna outfit it to be rented and lease it out, and they do come and rent it. Now, we still can't do anything about people that just show up and use it and not use electricity, but most of the people that asked us to outfit it, it's because they wanted to use it for an event. Then they would just purchase their
You need to
certificate
have a
of
separate
liability.
event policy for if there's gonna be alcohol. You have to have that in
Right.
addition to your liability insurance, you have to have separate one day insured you for alcohol.
Well, there'd have to be some sort of way to identify that it's gonna be used, you know, a particular day, so that somebody just don't drive up and set
That,
up
that
tent.
needs to be.
Right.
in the
And
lease.
You have a situation at Grand Engineer and also
Mhm.
the Creole, I mean.
Mhm. You have
somebody
both
has to-
pavilions.
Somebody has to rent it, the other one's gotta go,
Yep.
you know, and
It's nothing that's novel to the police jury staff or the parish or the people that normally rent the pavilions around here. It's something we've been doing for years, and we're capable of doing it if you want us to go ahead and present it to the beach board and see how if they want to vote to lease it out or not.
I'll get with you want.
Okay.
Beach board and
And
stuff.
y'all let me know when the meeting is over.
Okay. Because there, Mr. Bobby Miller and Doc, and there's a bunch out there. Doc, I hope you don't mind me using your name, but, I want to try to get more things happening out there on Rutherford Beach and draw more people. And also, I can't remember your name, it's just
Johnny Pruitt.
Johnny Pruitt, you know, try to attract more people, so that's another way. Actually, before the storm, the They did have some RV hookups out there at one time before, you got power, but there was no sewer, and then power and water at one time. But, that was before we either, but anyway. So they want more things to happen out there, so. I need some electricity and lights.
Mr. President.
But I get with it.
One other thing too, are they still vandalizing everything out there? Because they were pulling the stuff off the walls with their trucks out there.
Bring our tables down.
Yeah, they're tearing everything down.
Years
I mean,
ago.
so we put up electricity, what's to say they don't tie on to it and pull it? I mean, where's the liability at on all that?
That's criminal property
Yeah.
damage, you know, it's a crime.
But if somebody
you know,
gets hurt or killed, who's paying for it?
The police jury.
You mean what? Like, you
If they
mean,
pull it out, they wrap a chain around the electrical and they get electrocuted.
that's not your problem. They're in the
So-
process of committing a crime.
Even though we got it leased, it's our property. We're not liable.
Not if someone is vandalizing the property. They don't have permission to, but you do that, so. It's like a trespass, you know.
Does our general liability insurance cover that? If somebody does get hurt out there?
Yes,
Okay.
we carry an umbrella policy on all parish assets.
Mhm.
So they're covering that, and that if somebody pulled electricity down and they didn't get hurt, but somebody else came behind them and didn't know they got hurt, we would be covered.
You have-
Yes, sir.
One other question with the liability or any insurance. Is that gonna be something that when they come to rent it, we're gonna take care of that then? Because we're gonna need stipulation as to how high we're gonna go.
That's how we've always done it when people rent the rec or any other parish building. They have to have their proof of event insurance there. And in fact, we used to do that at the church when we had the Casey Hall. We would rent the Casey Hall and you had to have your proof of insurance when you came to sign.
So it's your obligation, we don't do that on site, we don't have them form and fill it out.
No, they have to consult an insurance company.
And when they do that, do we have a stipulation on what we need as far as amount of coverage?
Yes,
That needs to be in the lease and we also be named as an additional insurer in case they try to say, well, there was a hidden defect in the property that they didn't know about, but we would be covered for everything.
Okay, because we get that concept, I'm gonna come over and rent the thing for Saturday, and if they had to take care of some of the stuff, they may not have get it done before Saturday. So I was wondering if there's gonna be a one-stop type deal for the insurance group.
No, because we can't buy the insurance policy.
I understand.
So they're gonna have to do that on their own.
but I mean, the way they would enforce it is if we don't release the key, traditionally you have a building with a door, we wouldn't give you the key until you provided everything and paid the money and left a deposit in case something. For this, we would have a breaker box elevated that was locked under key, and we would send out a facility manager out there to unlock it after we verified the information and the policy and deposit was made and everything. It's pretty similar to what we already do at some of our other parish
They went
locations.
birthday parties. different kids.
Yeah, if you want to rent in it, and the people already are using it without electricity, more people might would use it and would come rent it if they could get electricity, get lights. But like I said, they would have to come to the jury and apply and make sure that they were compliant with everything. So it would be kind of be a little bit,
That would be written out.
about,
What stops them from using it? I mean,
nothing stops them right now. They use it right now.
There's 4 minutes in the week. It's just that you want to have a van or something, you have to haul in a generator.
Last year, they just pulled generators in and they had their party there and ran everything off of generators. And we didn't really know, I mean, we knew they were there, they were advertising a little bit, but if we were renting it, if they came to us to rent it for this 4th of July party, we would have advance notice they were there, we'd know they were insured. So we could notify the sheriff's office and say, look, you might want to just have extra patrol, you know, they're having this in case there's an emergency. And it lets us be a little bit more prepared for big events that are on our property versus the way that it is now, which is if you just show up, no one's aware that you're out there. And if someone gets hurt, sheriff's office doesn't know anyone's out there, the police jury doesn't really know anyone's out there. And it could create some issues, public safety issues.
I got to give to the sheriff, there's deputies out there pretty often.
Mhm.
Oh, when I've been out there, there's usually deputies on there.
It was following you, Scott.
Sure what only do or something.
Suspicious here.
Like I said, this is just something that, the idea was proposed to the staff through Mr. Scott. We checked into it for him, and I'm just presenting it to you if you want us to pursue it and go meet with the beach board and offer them the options and everything, let them know that we did a lot of the legwork, and we can do the administration of the lease agreement for them, and then, like you said, Mr. Lee, they probably would be willing to pay for it if that's what the board chooses to do. We could go meet with them within this month, but we didn't want to do that without support of the jury. If it wasn't,
We'll have a meeting with them.
So the only upgrade you're talking about is electricity?
yes,
And like,
and lights.
like,
The lights and some
There's, there's already electricity ran out there. It would just be wiring the pavilion with outlets, meant to making a breaker box. And everything would be tied into one breaker box and locked. And our facility maintenance crew, they would have the key. And we would only dispatch them to unlock it after they applied and paid their permit and paid the required deposit. The deposits in case something happens out there and they break something, we have the deposit to help offset the cost to repair.
Similar to what they got in
Yes, same thing, Grand Engineer.
Just like
The Grand Engineer administers theirs though, they have the staff. Beach Board doesn't have any part-time staff to do it, so the police jury would have to do it for them.
I think Missy Lane takes care of the.
Yes, Missy Lane does it for free, that's correct. You wanna move on?
Move on, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one would be, rail feasibility study. Claire?
The Board Commission took action in its last meeting to apply to the Army Corps of Engineers and the United States Department of Agriculture to fund a rail feasibility assessment. As you know, there's no rail in Cameron Parish. And understanding where best to place that infrastructure is critical for our forward movement. It's also important when I am working to sell Cameron Parish as a location for various types of projects. Typically, every request for proposals for a site that the board receives from the State Department of Economic Development or others in economic development in the state who are working with a consultant to locate a particular project, it's one of the first reasons why we can't submit sites, because we don't have any rail. So I mentioned those two grant funding agencies. The estimate for the local match is roughly $5,000. So that would be a cost that the port would incur. And what I'm asking you for is a resolution of support for that application. One of the requirements is that when we submit our application, we have letters of support or resolutions of support from local governing bodies. I've gotten letters from Mark Abraham and Ryan Bouillard, and I'm working to get them from businesses who are already located in the parish that would see a benefit if we have rail in the parish.
Lord, yeah.
It's my goal, yes.
I just want to share this with y'all. Back in '99, when I first ran for office the first time, I went by Mr. T-Bone calls, and I'd asked him about whenever they loaded ships out of Cameron one time, they had the Chestnuts at that place. So he called Mr. Littleton, the Chestnut up, and had him on the phone. And the thing Mr. Littleton said was, what Cameron Parish needs is a evacuation route, like we talked about years ago, and rail right down the middle of it. He said that 20 years ago. That's what we needed.
So I'm looking at our friends from Fenster Maker, Renee Escaray. Look, Nick Gaspas turning around, look at the wall. Yes, I mean you. So several years ago now, I don't even remember how long ago, Fenster Maker offered up for two consecutive summers, offered up some of their interns to work with us at the port. And we still have a map on display that shows a proposed elevated highway, an economic development and an alternative evacuation route, which would shorten the travel time from, say, right here at the courthouse to the regional, the Lake Charles Regional Airport to maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And so this is just the first stage of having something like a master plan to include. We do have a port redevelopment plan that was done back in 2013, Timmy? I think it was 2013. So one of the things that the Public Port Authority, used to sell the private port development, Port Louisiana Incorporated, is this direct access to the Gulf of Mexico. If we were able to really have multimodal transportation, which includes railroad, we could perhaps have some strong federal partners that would help us with placement of that elevated highway that you talked about. But I've heard it all my life. Governor Edwin Edwards, I believe, was intent on doing it, that elevated highway. But we're certainly going to try. We need a tool to be able to show to businesses that might consider coming here where we would place that rail. So this is just a grant application to study where the best place to put the rail would be. So I'm just asking you for a resolution of support
That's
today.
something we need to add to the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll put it on the agenda. Vote on it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Before we go forward, I think we've got a couple of cards. It's a good time for that to take place. All right, the first one would be Doc Dupree for the Rutherford Beach Breakwaters.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Doc Dupree from Rutherford Beach. I'm actually representing Rutherford Beach, Friends of Rutherford Beach. We had just two topics we'd like to present to you. One is the status of the Rutherford Beach breakwaters. And first of all, do we know the start date on it? Ballpark?
Yeah, I issued the notice to proceed last week, so they have 210 days from the notice to proceed, so they have to have everything finalized and constructed by October 1st.
So 1 October it should be going. So that's going to
And
be.
they have liquidated damages associated with that contract, so they'll get charged $1,500 a day for every day over they go.
All right, so we're going to be in hurricane season though when it starts, obviously, yeah. Secondly, there's been some controversy on the amount of breakwater we're going to get. Prior to November, and I'm happy you weren't here by then, prior to November last year, it was 6,000 feet. And I think we had a presentation in December that was going to go down to 4,000 feet. Some of the information we got from you, Katie, that the diagram shows 4,500 feet. Do you know the actual length now of the breakwater?
I can get Nick if you want to comment on it, but I believe it's 4,500.
That is
And
correct.
It is
It's
4,500.
We have a permit for 6,000 feet. Because of limited funds, it's down to 4,500 to allow for additional monies to be spent on Long Beach and Long Fork.
Understood. We understand that. If there's any extra money, there may be a chance that we'd go back to that extra breakwater for another 1,500 feet.
Yes, it is a priority, and we've actually applied for several grants to try to get funding allocated to do that additional breakwater at Rutherford Beach.
Understood.
Kara's been overseeing that, and she's applied for several, and we will apply every year, every funding cycle until we get it. Whether we get grant funds or we utilize local funds, it is a priority to get it done.
Thirdly, do we know how far offshore the breakwaters will lie? We've heard anything from 150 to 300 feet.
That sounds like you, Nick.
I'll answer that one. We don't have an exact distance for you. The design calls for the breakwaters to be placed at the 3.5-foot contour. That roughly, when we did the last survey, it was about a year ago, that was about 190 feet offshore, and it will fluctuate. It's going to follow the shoreline to a certain extent, but there's no hard 200 feet, 150. It's designed to be at a specific spot to break the waves, and that's 3.5 foot.
Understood. So anyway, we can assume anywhere from 100 to 300 feet. Somewhere in that range, we should be able to see it.
It'll be
Shouldn't
less
change that
than
much.
200.
Yeah. Final question two. By regulations from the Corps of Army Engineers, we can only use approved stone coming from approved sites. That's true? Because there's been some talk about digging up stones down at Kiewit and using them in the breakwater by the next official here.
No, I don't have a core permit yet. That should be issued any day now. But we have a very lengthy specification sheet that says what they have to use.
And it's usually from a Corps of Army Engineers approved or DOT approved quarry site. And are they coming from up the Mississippi?
I do not know where the contractor is taking their rock from.
Understood.
But we have very stringent rules on what rock they can actually use.
Good.
That is outlaid by DOT. I'm not sure the Corps of Engineers plays any part in that, but DOT classifications are being used for this.
I think if I left some of the paperwork that you actually handed out to the police jury, I think it did denote that Corps of Army Engineers has to have an approved site. But that's, you know, as long as we're not digging local stone, as long as it passes whatever the engineers need, we're comfortable with that. The engineers say, okay.
I don't think the state of Louisiana has stone to dig up.
Understood. There's been some talk tonight, there's been some talk too, based on past episodes, when you talk to the barge owners. Flooding in the Mississippi can possibly delay stone being transported down if it comes up north from north. Any info on that?
That has been the case for Rockefeller, but like Katie just laid out, they have to get the stone here and place it by October 1st, or liquidated damages for not doing so.
Understood. Thank you. Second, this is the final thing. We want to sort of put a personal touch on it too, gentlemen. I know most of you are probably not as familiar with Rutherford Beach as Juris Trahan is, of course. But on the Rutherford Beach subdivision, we have hundreds of lots. There are hundreds of property owners. And when we look at what we're going to call risk and high-risk lots, and Juris Trahan, if we look at the property south of Cameron Drive, west of Rutherford Beach Road going to the cattle guard, folks, just to let you know, we're looking at close to 100 lots that we consider at risk or high risk. High risk lots are lots that already had erosion. And these are property owners in the parish. Some of these are residents. I know I'm one. And we can't tell you how much appreciative we are that this intervention is hopefully going to help start saving some of these lots. But we have people with skin in the game, not just the public beach, but as you know, Juris Trahan, we have a lot of people who have placed money and time and effort and sweat, and they love it. So we can't tell you how appreciative we are of getting this done. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, our next person I'd like to speak is Long Beach Group. Who's going to speak for us?
We all go up there or what? Come on. We stay here, stay there. All right. My name's Tom Chevalier, my wife Mary.
Hi.
And we've, for the last 3 years, our road has been damaged. I've been a part of this community for 20 years. I have a piling company. I've done a lot of the Holly Beach houses. I have a lot of skin in the game, but for 3 years, I've never been able to use my property. The road's been not totally taken out, but it's, you know, one corner has been taken out and we,
Not accessible to our home.
yeah, we, you know,
We park our business equipment where we store, equipment where we come down to do jobs and have a place for our workers to stay versus putting them up in a hotel. And for 3 years, we've not been able to do that. We've lost a lot of income because of that issue. It shows to work in different areas, but we'd love to be
back here,
back here.
yeah, I mean,
We
haven't worked here for years.
Rebuilding
I mean,
this
it's-
year.
I probably put in 90% of the houses in Holly Beach and in Johnson Bayou, and Sonny knows, and, it's just kind of frustrating. I mean, we're not the squeaky wheel. We're not gonna argue and scream and holler. We call the place and they say, okay, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. And so now, we're talking about abandoning it. That's what's kind of scary. I mean, I drove 4 hours to get here. I mean, I already came to Johnson Bayou. I mean, I came back every time after Rita, and I came here and helped every person that I could possibly help. I flooded in Ike, in my hometown.
No, it's Harvey.
Harvard, excuse me. I lost a house in Ike, and I lost a house in Rita.
Here in Johnson
I
Bayou.
lost those, but I've been back to help every one of the people that were here. And the sad fact is, I had to work on my house in Conroe, and then all of a sudden, I couldn't squeak the
Could
wheel.
be priority for us.
That's not priority. you know, but now we're back and we're finding out that we're talking about getting rid of a road that we had 2 other houses that we, on Sand Beach Road, well, the parish didn't take care of that. I took care of that. I made the road, everything fine. Well, we bought this house because it had a road that you guys could take care of. Well, I'm back down. I ain't got a road again. So, you know.
We're very concerned about, like I said, we do still try to go there and try to, you know, four-wheel it through the back way and get there, but we're scared that if our house starts on fire, the fire truck's gonna come to the road and go, watch it burn down. You know, they came to tried to service our fire hydrant out in front of our house, and they go, you know, have you talked to the sheriff's department, have you talked to anyone? He said, if I go back and tell my, you know, fire chief that we can't even get to your home, that it's just gonna sit there and burn, you know, that's just not right. And if anybody gets hurt when we go there, there's no ambulance,
We've been
our home
broken
gets
into.
vandalized constantly, there's no way.
Well,
You used to have a sheriff's, you know, come and circle.
Right.
They knew, you know, we were there off and on, not permanently, but they were there to help us and to call us when we did get broken into, but it's.
Can I ask a question?
Well, we had, at first, we had some FEMA money for PW to repair the road, we started repairing the road. And you can probably take a note of that, but, and then we had spring floods or spring tides. And, what they did repair, before they could finish it, was pretty much washed away. So they halted it, and we were waiting for these rainwaters to come in to maybe to control some of the wave action in that area. We're gonna be talking about that in our regular meeting, that's gonna get approved. I think we're probably gonna start, within 45 days of approval.
Yes, after we accept the bids, we'll have the notice received within 45 days. But I'm sorry, did you think we were requesting to abandon the road? Is that what you said?
Well, it says right here in this piece of paper. We just heard that.
Which piece of paper? Or the agenda are you talking about? It's a road in Cameron.
Okay, well, it scares you to death, okay?
I'm sorry, it might be,
Oh,
it's a misunderstanding, yes.
But see, but again, we don't want
For
to.
3 years, we've been telling, everybody's been telling us,
Right.
we're gonna get to you, we're gonna get to you.
Yes, and it's definitely not on the list to be abandoned. Like Mr. McGee said, we've invested money in repairing it and we will continue to, but whenever we got the Gomeza funds and the jury decided to allocate $3 million to protect the asset first before restoring it, because we keep investing money in restoring things and we're not ever investing money in preventing it from happening, so we decided to take a different route. We're gonna go ahead and put the money to invest and to prevent it from happening. Hopefully, we're optimistic that we're gonna have some land buildup based off of the results of the Rockefeller project that's been in place a year. And once we have those rocks in place, we're gonna start doing all the preliminary design work and develop a scope of work and a cost estimate to restore and replace it. But there's definitely no talk about abandoning the road right now.
Well, that's good, but here's the next thing is, okay, so how long we waiting for even to drive to our property? Because a lot of people.
Other people on the road and again, they're losing their property.
So we're accepting the bids to put those rocks in place today. So if you wait 45 days after, if you add it to the October 1st, you're looking at the middle of November. The rock should be in place to start protecting Long Beach and then see if we can start having some land build up. And then we'll start, you know, after the first of the year, start surveying it and trying to get a scope of work developed. Like Ms. Riggy, we've invested money in restoring it for years, and we have every intention of, but we're gonna try to protect it first.
Okay, so is there any, like I said, it's kind of hard because, you know, I do heavy equipment, I do a lot of other stuff, and I was told not to touch the road. And
Can
again,
we temporarily get access or to stop
Do something.
losing
Jenny, is
them
she
from
still
losing?
She had to go to drug court.
We have no access to our beach house.
We'll have to speak with legal and see what some of the options are.
Huh?
Are y'all all owners of property out there?
Yes.
Yes.
Do y'all know, if in fact there is a, right of way on the north side of y'all's property?
Long time ago.
I say that, I was a road superintendent for several years, and I had looked at plaques of that beach. You know, when I first started out there, the beach was
It
beyond.
was just amazingly far out.
Right,
Oh, there's a football field out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's come back to where the peninsula is where the road was.
Right.
You know,
Oh, definitely.
both sides is washed way back. So when I was looking at that area to try to figure out how to protect that road, I noticed that there was a right of way on the north side of that property. And I had made a comment one time to the jury, or to somebody at that time, that was several years back, that if one day this road we wouldn't be able to keep it up, that maybe an alternate path would be a right of way on the north side of the properties. And I don't know if that is still a right of way or
Well,
not.
There might be, but the biggest problem is yes, I understand what you're saying, but guess what? The only thing that stops that from taking my house is that road.
No, I understand.
You understand that? Here's the next thing is.
But, I mean, you gotta understand too,
Sure.
that we can't spend millions of dollars trying to,
I understand.
I mean, hopefully the rocks is gonna do that, protect the property.
And
But we can't keep spending money on
Right.
roads that we can't.
Have any of you looked at the road?
Yeah.
Just because, I know Sonny has, but you know, the thing is like I said, I'm a contractor, and I know pretty much how to do stuff. And I looked at that road, and they put that gray rock on top of it, and you know what that is, Sonny, don't you? Okay, from my house to where, they started taking rocks apart, and see, a pressure washer, when the water hits that and throws water through there, it's like high pressure, and it took all the gravel away. On this gray rock that they use on drilling rigs or whatever, drilling pads, that rock is not even touched. And we've had the same amount. The problem is it was a trial, rock from a municipality that put it in there. And you know what? It's still there. It's not damaged.
We're the last one on the end, and we love our road, we just can't get to
We
that
can't get to their
section
road.
because y'all's
I got a road.
fell apart.
Just can't get there.
We did a lot of trials back
And
there.
it was
Trying to see what would
And
That proved
that proved it worked.
that it worked.
And the amount is still there that Dr. Put that in. It's still there. It has been beat up. I've had tractors stand on top of it, and it's still sitting there. So I'm saying is yeah, we have a way to fix it.
Fix it,
We gotta
right.
fix it.
What was it? What was it?
It's like a cow
Over time.
It's awesome. It's the greatest thing in the woods.
Yeah,
It's still sitting there. I mean, if you go there today, you can take that thing and drive all the way where they started using an excavator to tear it apart. That's where the damage came from.
Well, let me ask this question, we could talk a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
about
that's
it,
fine.
but we're gonna fix the road after they put the brick on. Is there any way to clean it up and maybe put a temporary rock, just gravel or something there without spending millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Until we get to the point where we're ready to fix the road.
We can try, I don't think the rocks are gonna stay on the south side, the gup's gonna throw them,
Well,
so it's gonna be the,
if we
back
can
and
get
forth.
a rock, I wanna say a bigger rock, maybe not regular 610, but something a little bit bigger than that. May not scatter or see.
no, I'm talking about riprap. I'm not limestone, I'm talking about riprap.
Boom.
Yeah, we gotta move the riprap to be able to open the road back up, to be able to get out there.
And store it. Made it work. Well, yeah, what happened was we started to fix it, and what happened was is that storms came in, like you said, and kind of got us. Our bridges were down at that point. Well, the point is then we just walked away. What we need to do is get the riprap back in front of it, and just get that curve to come back around so we can drive down it, because when you get to my riprap, really good.
And we've already taken in some private property, and
Yeah.
we would be having to ask people that we may have to take a little bit more, because we can't go out in the gut and push the rocks over to build a road even after the rock's done. We've had to work with you guys to try to get a decent right of way through there, and be able to, but I'm looking at temporarily, maybe getting something put in there.
Just so you can drive in there.
That's not super expensive, but would allow them access until we get the road fixed.
I still say if you put the rocks back and you put a layer of cement on those rocks, but you don't keep blowing that stuff back up on the road.
I agree, but we have to get with people and make sure that we can spend their money on a different outlay. I think we're supposed to put back exactly what we had.
Yes, you go back to what the scope was.
Well, see, that's
And
the
that
problem.
was changing the black paper, changing the clay, coming back with limestone, putting the riprap on the side.
Not gonna work.
It didn't, and it worked for 1 week. We didn't even get to the limestone.
It will not work until you stop those big waves from going underneath those big rocks and knocking the small rocks up and then knocking the big rocks up. It's not gonna stop it. The only way to do that is to put a wall. And the only way to do that is with cement. That's the only way that you're gonna do it.
No,
It stops, it stopped it,
Yeah.
where Galveston, it stops. The biggest problem is how it shoots through the rocks.
Right.
Yeah, we need immediate assistance, because my property is going into the Gulf. Because the police jury chose to go in there and mark the road, like Bill said, y'all put the paper, never came back. Within the last 6 months, we've lost like 3 feet. My driveway is now going into the Gulf. The rock that I paid for, that the police jury said, yeah, I have to put that culvert, my driveway that has been used for, the public's been using my property as public access for the last 3 years. Because the road hasn't been fixed, it hasn't been shored up, nobody's been paying attention if there's any rocks going into the Gulf. It was good for a long time, and it could have been prepared better. So, you know, the project was started and abandoned. So because the police jury chose to abandon it, now all of our property is being lost, being used for public access. The fire department can't come, the ambulance can't come, the sheriff can't come. Everybody's going through our property, damaging our water meter, damaging the septic tanks. There's no, you know, it's just free for all over there. And we're still paying taxes. You know, and we're paying taxes for our roads. It hasn't been fixed in 3 years. And so I'm telling you, I sent some
Well, I
pictures.
can tell you a story that in Holly Beach, there's about 4 roads in the Gulf of Mexico that used to be very close. Wow. I'm not being ugly. I'm just saying it's hard to fight that Gulf of Mexico when you don't have some help out there. And you can put whatever you want. That way you try to beat on it every day, every high tide. I tell you, I don't know if they make some of this going to stop.
Right, the road
And
was,
I mean, I just want to be honest, you know, you can look down and you can stand where Long Beach Road is. You can look to the east and look to the west. They used to be beach out there.
We used to have beach and still ain't.
Sand and beach and trees and bushes and all that. That's all gone.
right,
The only thing that's out there now is where your road was.
where it was.
And it is, you know, I feel for you. You got property and you can't get to it. I really feel for you.
Well,
But we gotta take appropriate, when we spend taxpayer money, we need to spend it wisely so that we don't go and put something and a week later, all that money we spent is washed away. I
right,
mean, we're hoping that the rocks will put the rocks out there in the Gulf, government's rock project, then we can come in there and build the road back like it's supposed to be built. Temporarily,
we need some
I guess we
temporary.
could get I guess we could get some easement. I don't know. I don't even know if we could do this, but I guess we could get some easements from the landowners to build a temporary path through on private property. I don't know if we can or can't do that, but.
Well, I've sent pictures of the damage. And it's because the road was milked after the hurricane. If that didn't happen, we would still have, my property wouldn't be going into the Gulf right now. If I wait 6 months, no, my cement is gonna be going into the Gulf. And it's because the road was not completed after Hurricane Harvey. It's nothing to do with total Mother Nature, because the road was built up until FEMA gave instructions to milk the road. So now the level of the road came down, what, 3 or 4 feet?
Yeah.
And that is where it's been since Hurricane Harvey. It's not totally from Mother Nature. It's because of what was done to the road.
Those people on the corner lot are here.
They're not here.
Y'all in the
With the
second,
next one to it and the next
And
one
the
to
next
it.
one.
And you came in and started repairing the road, dug it down, and then left it.
And it's been like that
It's
to
washing.
the force of Mother Nature for 3 years because it hasn't been completed.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Emily, is there any way you can get with these ladies and gentlemen here, look, bring something back to us maybe?
yes, sir, I have some pictures I can share with
all day
y'all.
long, we can't solve the
Yeah.
problem.
I can share some pictures with y'all. She sent me some and I have some.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I mean, that'd be the thing for me to do, you know,
So you can look at
we
it.
can go look at it and try to,
And I haven't, apologize, I used to be road superintendent, but that's been about, at least 5 years ago.
Well, we have pictures, and I have some with them, you got them like I said last
Sound like
time.
a road trip we need.
But
We
just
got,
in
we
the
got
last
video,
6
we
months,
watch
we've
it,
got.
she through there all the time.
But in the time being, I'd like for you to do two things. I'd like for you to people to see if we have some options. Tell them what our issue is, if there'll be some leeway, and then look into a temporary access road, some type, narrow lane, one thing, something, because if we have to go deep, get out, we don't want to put too much in there. But part of the problem is because we were in the process of doing what people wanted us to do, we came to a source situation.
Yes.
So if we can answer those two questions, we've got the rocks coming. I know y'all, it's been a long time, and I hate to make promises that, you know how government is, we make promises and we never fulfill. But we're gonna do the very best we can. The one good thing is that, to us, it's a road problem, a road job. To them, it's their livelihood, it's where they live. So it's good to hear from the people that are suffering, and not just for us putting it as a business deal, business sense, we can wait. So we can do those things, and like you said, we can come up with something better. We'll do it as soon as possible. We hate for the delay.
And I'll get with legal and question them about the easement and see if I can use that.
Not only what can fix it, try to get some price on what's gonna cost.
Okay.
May even need to get a survey. I mean, to actually get the road back where it's supposed to be.
They're not gonna put it back where it's supposed to be.
Well, we got to know,
I probably need that just to be able to go to Jenny when it comes done and to say, look, I need another 5 feet, 6 feet, 2 feet.
you may have to get it
For the
surveyed just
easement.
for that reason, just so that we can say to
I need this much.
whomever, hey, look, we can't put it here no more, we're gonna have to obtain some right of way to put it different. And that might satisfy FEMA in the short term, I don't know.
And maybe we could do like Mr. Curtis says, maybe we could, if people lets us deviate from what we were planning to do, put some kind of concrete down base or something in there that would be more protected from water wash. It might be where to go, but we got to start somewhere to get these things in.
Yeah, it's immediate, it's an immediate concern. It can't wait 6 months, it can't wait 3 months. It really can't.
There's lots of them dump trucks, them cement trucks that they go clean out. they go
Empty out? Yeah, we're on the wrong side.
Don't get stuck.
We don't know. Now the truck can't go there. And now,
So we're looking at hopefully 45 days, we'll begin our rock project, which is gonna free us, hopefully knock the wave down enough to where we can work. And then in the meantime, we'll be looking into what our options are, and can we put some kind of temporary, whether it be in the front or the back, either way. I mean,
are you able to show the pictures? I have some, yes, I'm gonna do. Okay. I was looking, I don't think I got any.
okay, well, I guess we'll be prepared to present the options at the next meeting. Give you an update on it.
Yeah, I own 2 lots, and they're in the middle. I've had them for several years. I'm not able to access them, so I cannot develop them, either put a beach house or put, spots for RV park. I hear about the parish expanding, we'd like to be part of that. But y'all can't forget about the tax base either, that if I can develop, that generates more revenue for you guys, as well as the other landowners. There's several lots that nobody can access it and, get this developed where we can contribute to the parish as well. So I don't want y'all to just forget about us that way. We can make our contribution as well, and hopefully just like everybody else coming in, be a part of this expansion.
Our goal is to get the road put back and to get it protected. And then protect it again with the rocks on the other side.
Because it used to be.
Don't have no doubt,
Right.
we want a road back for y'all over there. Just that we have to take a lot of things into consideration.
Yes, sir.
That
Well, I talked with the sheriff department down there, they can't go down the road, they can't protect our property, because they can't get there. And they need something.
Just one last thing I want to say about this while you're in the room. Every time we have a discussion about these rocks, you're always going to hear me saying all we're doing is moving the problem. When they put those last rocks through Little Florida, they stopped. And these people caught the current. It increases, wherever those rocks stop, it
Right.
increases. You're
It
gonna see
sucks,
road-
yeah, it sucks, it just moves it down. Let's send it to Texas. Come on.
You did the study, you see the water running, you can see an eddy form right there at the end of those rocks. And that's what it does. And you can already see the erosion they're protected a little bit with the rock dam. Look at the beach on the other side, they've given up probably 150 feet in
Yeah.
the last year.
Yeah.
It's just noticeable, but the reason you see it so far on the west side of the structure is because the rocks did something, and there's nothing there. So it's not that it eroding faster, it's going at the same rate.
But we started
But we're
the
holding it.
rock project way back when,
What?
I can't remember his name, the senator was in the road, was in there. And we started where the erosion was bad, and all we did was move it in. I mean, the erosion is probably non-stoppable, but we're moving the main problem further over. So just take that in mind. All I want you to do is consider that whenever you end a set of rock, don't end it where there's a housing situation.
And I think that's why Katie and Kara are trying to find about 500 million, so we can just rock the
And
whole coast.
it's good
We
because.
won't stop till everything's right.
That's right.
We will protect our coast, but I just want you to understand that exemplifies what I've been saying all along.
Absolutely.
Galveston is not, and it's not eroding, it's all because of senior. I'm just saying.
That, and they put their rocks, they put their rocks in the right place.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say more about that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. And please stay in contact. We need a
Oh, we-
little bit of, push everyone.
Well, we didn't like squeaky wheel, but I guess we will. They need.
We don't know when you were talking about it, that's why we jumped on this day.
All right, let's see where we're at. I'd like to, get you that. Yeah, I just want to make sure we did, yeah.
Add this to the agenda so we can get it on the voting meeting. It's an authority to advertise, to change the parish ordinance for the library board members to match the state statute of 8.
One of the reasons is we have some libraries that have representation, and we both have to make sure we have opportunity for those libraries to have representation. Any issues with that? Everybody good? We have that as an add. Okay. Any other people want to speak?
You skipped me on number 8? Yes, sir.
No, I did.
Yes, sir.
I read right through you. All right, okay.
Okay.
Be living change, the road amendment.
Yes, sir. I got a letter from Shelley Benson requesting her speed limit on her road from 25 miles an hour to 15. That's Parish Road 225 Miller Avenue. The road is less than 150 yards and it ends at the Mercantile River. So she is requesting that. That is on the afternoon agenda to vote on.
Check with the other landowners down that road.
She is, I think, almost, the rest of them are camped, but she's actually living on it. She's in the middle of the road.
Where's Shelley at?
She's in where Charlotte Cross Warehouse was,
Okay.
and,
And that's gonna start the process. All that's gonna do is put it in the paper and then give them something.
yeah, y'all have to vote on it this afternoon, yes, sir. And then the other one, Mr. Pat Dolan, heirs, Shelley, Patrick, and Diane has requested to abandon the last 120 foot of, C Street behind the Dollar Store. It will not interfere with the salty crab. They have it all surveyed already. It is just the start after that. They want to fence in their property. They said people are turning around. They're not knowing where they're going. Whether it is the guy delivering at Family Dollar or just some people driving down the road that don't need to be there. That's going to be Scott's district.
Good with that? Yeah, that's.
And it has to be advertised.
It's not affecting nobody else.
No, sir.
It'll be a 30-day notice too, so
Okay.
we have time to.
And it's on the afternoon.
And they're also gonna fence off from the highway on concrete also?
Just her portion, just her portion.
They just wanna abandon the road.
The last 120 feet is gonna be past the Salty Crab RV park where it don't interfere with them. It's all their back property, yes, sir.
Any other comments?
Well, somebody just texted me about a dumpster dive. That somebody's complaining that they can't dumpster dive anymore.
Yes, at the dump site. They have never been allowed to scavenge. There's been signs up forever, and somebody stopped in Sweet Lake and wanted to pick something up out, and they were told they couldn't. Because we actually have a contract for the white goods, and there is somebody that comes around to the dump sites and picks them up. Yes, sir, we did. I did get a phone call yesterday afternoon about that.
We had a discussion about that a couple of years ago, I know y'all remember this. But it's not dumpster diving, I mean, white goods is white goods.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Go ahead.
No, well, the problem with it was, people going out there and scattering. Some of these people going out there picking up, metal, it's not like this. This is steel, and this is stuff that, some people make their living off of. I'm not taking up on it. In my mind, these people should be able to, if something is laying on the ground, they're not going in there making a mess or digging, you know, trying to hurt themselves, or picking up all this metal. I don't see why these people can't do that. I have a problem.
Well, I think,
Do we have a contract, do we have a contract with somebody?
Yes, sir, we do.
For white goods.
For the white goods, but that is, yeah, the white goods is, metal, barbecue pits, everything is kept together. He picks up all that.
So he picks up everything?
Yes, sir.
He don't
Anything that's,
he don't pick up just white goods?
no, it's everything in that one pile that's considered white goods. They call it white goods, but it's all together.
I think what they're getting is, they're getting some stuff that some people throw away because they don't want in their yard no more, and there's nothing wrong with it. And some people can't afford to go out and buy it.
That's right.
That's what they're picking up, the stuff that's still good, that they is usable. I mean, and I gotta tell you this, you gotta stop the vendors at the dump sites picking up scavenging whatever they want to take home.
And this
This
gentleman
is every
pays,
day.
don't get me wrong, he picks all this stuff up. He doesn't pay us anything for that. He gets this for free. He gets it for free.
Yes, sir.
And an individual that makes his living, some of these people make a very small living at picking this stuff up. I don't see why they can't do that.
Liability issues, is it?
I would think it would be liability issues if they get hurt, but then we would carry insurance at every dump site.
It's liability to go throw it out there.
Yeah, what I'm saying.
That's what we have to do.
Without any large issues, I don't see, kind of like Curtis,
I don't see anything wrong with it either. And he mentioned some people that will make a little living on it, elderly.
Well, I can tell you what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is the people that's contracted to pick your white goods up, they're gonna say,
They haven't done that in 4 years.
Y'all letting people come, open it to the public, what you're doing right now. You're gonna allow anybody to come in there and pick up all the iron that's good. And you're gonna leave the trash over there for that white good person that's got the contract, he's gonna say, I don't believe you. I'm not coming to get it. And then what you do? Then what you do?
Leave it like it is right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of explained to him, because he said for years and years and years, he went to a different dump site and they've always let him do, but he stopped at a different one that shut him down, so he got very upset
Let me
yesterday.
ask you, but this person, is he just an individual that's picking up one thing?
This guy?
Or did he go in there with a trailer and pick up a bunch of junk iron that goes there?
No, I think he passed by and just saw something that he could use.
I don't have a problem with that.
And I was at the dump site with my daughter, and I had to slap her on the hand because there was something that she wanted out of it. She wanted a broken rake. Now, we're not gonna do with a broken rake. But, I mean, my position, I was not gonna let her take it. So, but.
So we can have no action? We can time in?
We used to have to haul them white goods softer back in dump trucks. Man, we don't want to ruin, what we have going on at the dumps for our white goods getting picked up. That's the only thing I'm saying, is because we used to spend a lot of money hauling that. Had to pay the guy to bring it to him with our own trucks. So, I mean.
I have a problem with stopping people from going in with a trailer and a backhoe or some kind of digger or whatever, picking up loads of that stuff and loading it up. If a man drives through there and he sees something that he needs, I'm like, Curtis, they need it, I think they ought to be able to take it.
That's not what it was designed.
No, but
They might have parts off of a washing machine or
wheels, you know, I understand it. If they're competing with the people we have in the contract, I understand it. But that small piece here and there, I don't have a problem with that.
I think
And it always was kind of a discretion to the operator.
Right.
That place.
So you're gonna say.
I mean, it was never written in rule that you couldn't get anything. But what I'm saying is, we don't want
We
to
just have to be
advertise
careful.
it here in a public meeting that we're going to allow people to go to the dumps and pick up iron.
We move along. I just want to bring it up, because somebody just texted me that.
So picking up iron is a different thing from dumping that. I mean, you gotta get in the dump, we don't want to, but if it's something piece, they pick up a small piece, they're coming in with a truck and trailer, picking up everything, yeah, we go. Shut up, ready? I didn't hear that.
said don't put anything in the
Small
back.
piece of one,
It's like messing with cows, so you don't do that.
All right, we'll move on. All right, before we read the agendas, I'd like to invite everyone to the time capsule ceremony celebrating the sesquicentennial anniversary of Cameron Parish this Sunday, March 15th. The ceremony will be held at the Cameron Multipurpose Building, 122 Recreation Center Lane in Cameron. The complimentary meal will be served beginning at 12 p.m. with the ceremony following at 1 p.m. Everyone is invited to attend, and we hope to see you there. I'd like to know what's in that time capsule.
I know what's in it, I want that.
With that, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and review the agenda.
I do have one. Emily, when are we gonna start cutting grass?
Actually, some of them are starting next week, but by probably the third week of March, we should be started probably everywhere.
That's the roads,
Yes.
ditches?
In the Grand Lake area, we haven't, we're taking applications to the 13th at 3:30, so we haven't replaced anybody yet. So what Greg's actually gonna do, I think he's starting Monday on one side, and he's just gonna cut all the way through. Shelby's working very much short-handed. He's down to one person right now. Somebody hurt themselves, gonna be out probably about 3 months, and the other one hasn't been released yet. So, yeah, we're just kind of short-handed.
Mr. President, I'd also like to talk about a little subject right now, and I know we talked about it earlier. But I'd like for Ms. Emily to be able to talk with the state about our grass cutting on the highway.
Yes, I don't know if that's gonna, that probably won't take any great action, but we will get with her, and she may want to show us to go. When she gets ready
And
to
that's
do
fine,
it.
but we need to talk.
All right. All right, to review agendas now? Okay.
Sir, no post call here. The Shell Energy LLC after the fact permit. They constructed a levee. Is that like a location?
Yes.
And they're just trying to keep the water coming in?
Yeah, it's sheet flow into their drill site, so they're gonna levee right along the road.
All right, Kara, number 7, A, at Deal and Holland. Is there gonna be any issues with wetlands?
What's that?
Be A, or number 7, permits?
Hey, I haven't, it's a state concern permit, so,
Oh, you heard the noise I heard last night.
yes,
It shouldn't be an issue.
no, I think they did find some wetland impacts.
So, and here's what my problem is that they had placed there before. Storm came in and took some of the sand. And now they have to go back and fight the state over a wetland issue that shouldn't have been in the first place. I don't understand how they get to that point, but I would like to find out where I can voice my opinion. It will carry some weight. We need to go back and I'm ready to go, because this is getting a little bit silly.
That conversation is gonna have to be with the federal to court engineer.
That's fine. Can't bring argument.
Me either, so, again, on the temporary food, I would like permission, or I would like to add to this temporary food vendor list. I would like to have it temporarily in Hackberry as well.
No, that's gonna,
We gotta re-advertise.
let's go do this. We've been working a long time on this one. Let's get this one done. If you want to amend it again, I'm going to go ahead and support you. But if we do that now, we can tie it up, I'll look for that in services or something. Let's get this one done. Let's go to the next. I think somebody from other seats also has. That means you have to like the public with comments and things of that nature. So if we're talking about once, it's delayed. That'll be all right.
I don't want to delay, I'll be having there. I've got a couple of people that make it go through it. So as soon as we can possibly go back and revisit it and update it, that's what I would like to do.
Okay. Does that need any action? Or anything to add or anything?
I just want to say on this issue is that the people that I represent, the district that is talk to me about it, I'm totally against this. They don't want temporary food vendors, no. And the reasoning is because just what happened, just now what happened. I told them, I said, this is strictly just Holly Beach. No, that's not how it works. They keep telling me. Because once you get it in Holly Beach, it's going to spread throughout the whole country. I said, no, it's just for Holly Beach. What just happened?
Well, here's the thing. We had no service. We talked about it.
We had.
We're trying to help the people. And we even said, this is temporary. If we build businesses in Long Beach, we may do away with this.
It's not temporary. I don't.
I've seen calls too, and the same thing, they said you can't do it for the whole parish, because you're gonna pick out one place, and somebody else gonna want it, somebody else gonna want it, somebody else gonna want it. So,
We've been in this for one, how many months now?
long time.
Yeah. And people are waiting, we've already got places picked out, but we can go and we just already put them in contact. So my deal, I don't have a problem setting in and discussing the rest of the parish again, but we fought hard for this, to get this done. I don't see that it's gonna be, like I said, you read the ordinance, it's temporary, and we'll do it for the time. We have issues. I still have to go forward with Holly and discuss the rest of the parish another time.
I'll tell you right now, they've got people coming from Lake Charles delivering plate lunches to Cameron already.
They've been doing
And
that.
they're gonna be doing that right here.
But they're gonna continue to do that.
And the locals are steadily losing business right now.
Nobody's gonna be bringing, the truck can't leave or haul
The
food.
truck don't have to, they put it in the local plate, they can deliver it. And it's not against the rules.
Take a lot of real money anyway.
And over the cheap.
Yes.
They don't know where to get best deals.
Look, we
We talked about Holly Beach being a target. We didn't. And my concern was, before I got here, was just this. They were concerned that that's going to spread throughout the parish and it's going to hurt our local businesses. And they didn't want to see it.
won't hurt the local businesses, it's an army, it ain't that.
Holly Beach.
You're still gonna have, Mr. Paul, Mr. President, you're gonna have the food trucks, the way it's written right now for Holly Beach. You're still gonna, in this ordinance, the way it's still proposed, you're still gonna be able to do the nonprofit, a percentage of it is nonprofit, like in school.
Lions Club or something.
The Lions Club or the Gaddy's truck in Grand Lake, they give some of their proceeds to the athletic department in
I
Grand
would say you
Lake.
have to do that.
That is still in there right now. Let me tell you all this too, and a lot of people don't know it. That food vendor truck or trailer or whatever has to be tied to a commissary with the Department of Health and Hospitals. It's not ours. We gotta get an approval from them. They give it to us, and if they're not tied to a commissary, which Gaddy's is tied to their store, Cape Paso's tied to their business in Lake Charles, has got to have an approved cook kitchen. Okay, that truck has got to leave, it's got to leave Holly Beach every night and go back to Lake Charles, wherever their commissary is. If it's in Hackberry or Johnson Valley, that's their commissary, because you got kitchens there too. Okay,
What, the permit
well,
department?
right now, the permit department, the sheriff department, and the health department.
Miles got a question.
I just want.
Yeah, that's the way it's, we had a discussion with the health department this week.
Question.
Yes, sir?
Okay, say T-Bowl, Candy, Tracy, just say on this side right now.
Yeah,
If John had him a truck,
yes.
can he take his truck, when he gets to the Morris concert, can he take a truck, say if he rents a piece of land from Ontario right there by the ice plant, can he come sit up there every day, don't you go back at night right now?
The way it's written right now, yes, sir, and the way it's with the 18 rules too.
Why are we asking for a bid? Well, if it's written that way, why are we even asking for?
He can set up right now if it's for a nonprofit.
For us, not a
Yeah,
business.
Yeah, Scott, he can set up right now that way for if it's a nonprofit.
No, not nonprofit.
Okay, well, he can't do it.
Okay, so he'd have to give to a non-profit 10%, 15%?
Right, and we gotta see that. We gotta be able, we need something from whoever the nonprofit is gonna be. We need to get a letter from the nonprofit organization, the school,
So it's just for the nonprofit?
just for the nonprofit.
Other than that, he can't just get 10 people to put them in Cameron and sell food out here, commissary.
I indicated a while ago, she said no.
Now, Holly Beach is gonna be different. They don't need a nonprofit organization. It's for food vendor trucks. That's the way that's for them. They don't need to give it to a nonprofit. They're gonna make all the money.
That's the reason we're doing this for Holly Beach.
Going back to the original meeting, it's temporary, just consideration. Up there,
And there's only four, it's on this, it's only four for Holly Beach, only four. When we get to four, when we permit four, we shut it off, I don't care who comes.
But now, in Holly Beach, do they still have to go back to the commissary?
Yes, sir, they do.
I don't see it. You know, at least on a steady, you're gonna get.
It has to be somebody local, like Jimmy Brown or somebody, because nobody's gonna come from Lafayette.
Jimmy Brown's gonna come back up.
And the rest of the parish, right now, is gonna have to be, they don't want to be tied to a nonprofit. If they tied to a nonprofit and they come down, we're gonna call the sheriff department and go and shut them down.
And I'm asking you guys, just to remember the discussion that we had. It's temporary. I'm not trying to take something on somebody else that don't want it. It's not doing anything rest of the parish. If we see that this is happening, we can shut down.
It's not a matter of you messing with the rest of the parish, it's the people that's gonna come in after that happens.
What do you mean?
Just gonna mess with the parish.
They're gonna come and petition you, but you're gonna say, we don't do that, we have businesses to take care of. We have businesses to take care of.
So, Miles, if you own a grocery store like Mechanics in the parish, he can't send a food truck out.
Unless it's tied to a nonprofit.
He could outfit if you wanted to.
Only if it's tied to a nonprofit. Now, he can go to Holly Beach and operate if he hurry up and gets his permit before four other trucks do.
I ain't going to Holly Beach.
You know why?
I don't wanna go to Holly Beach.
So anyway, so they still, as the ordinance is now, they still have to
Yes.
Unless they're gonna operate in Holly
Like
Beach.
say John or Tracy or T. Boyd, right, down here with these conventional.
Correct.
Point of order, Mr. President, point of information, I should say. Could you clarify, please, henceforth, a not-for-profit can contract with a for-profit truck company, and then, under the not-for-profit umbrella, service anywhere in the parish?
You want to address it?
Yes, what you said, Doc, is correct, but they have to present to the permitting department like an executed written agreement showing that it's a fundraising event for whatever they're fundraising. So like Mr. Gaddy goes to Grand Lake High School right now, they sell pizza whatever Thursday, and they give a certain percentage to the high school. It would have to be something that we have in writing that we can verify. They also have to present their occupational license. They will also have to present their, what's the DHA permit you called it? So, it's not just anyone that's going to do it, but we didn't want to eliminate the fundraising opportunities for the parish. We have a lot of youth organizations, church organizations, and school that, they depend on that fundraising.
One of the things I want to raise, I don't want it to be where, okay, I'm gonna give 1% to the nonprofit, now I can do business. That's not fair. We gotta have some kind of limit where it's 30-40% to the nonprofit. You know?
Well, we weren't, the police tree, that's almost impossible for us to police and enforce.
Well,
But
you get your permit anyway when you got it.
the nonprofit would have to execute their agreement with this for-profit, and I would hope that they would do the right thing and make sure that they're not just giving all of their fundraising activity money away just to have someone.
This needs to be, addressed with the local, companies and the projects that are going on in Cameron Parish. Well, I guarantee, and I know for a fact that, they're bringing, these trailers on site, on their site, and they're not doing it. So,
And now I can check, that might not be a place for the ordinance, which you were talking about, like maybe, that might just be an administrative task. Like we have the ordinance for fundraising, and then I'll check with legal and make sure it's something we can administratively interpret. But within house, we can say, okay, well, your agreement needs to at least be a minimum 15%, or we're not giving you the permit. It's something we can do procedurally wise. I don't think it needs to be in the ordinance, but I will double check legal before you vote this afternoon to make sure that we don't need that percentage indicated in the ordinance.
All we're trying to do is protect our local businesses and not put still want to service all the public. We still want Holly Beach to have a place to go eat. Darn sure don't want to discourage somebody from actually building a store in Holly Beach. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables,
Right.
you know, and I understand that they ain't got, right now, they ain't got nothing. A darn gone gas station and that would be nice.
And when that happens, if there's somebody that's supplying food or selling, actual businesses, check this out, that was a good reason to discuss it.
Yeah, it's all still within your authority to appeal the ordinance. And we can't, I mean, you still, if you wanted to expand it from Holly Beach to Hackberry or Rutherford Beach, you would have to go through the comment period. You would have to solicit input from the public, and then it's still up to your vote. If you don't vote for it, then it doesn't happen. This is only for voting. You're only voting for Holly Beach.
Did we get any official objections?
Did we get it? No, we didn't get any.
And I like something, again, I know it can cause an issue. You get something now, check this out. Be fair to the but you don't have that, there's not that much market, so we don't want to. But with the, if you don't want to buy other people, again, if you order from the county, but there's, I don't know if there's y'all.
You can go on, you can, correct me if I'm wrong, if they come down here and they go on Kiewit's site with a trailer and sell food, is that legal? It's on their site, it's in their gate.
They're doing it now.
Well, I'm just asking, is that legal or not?
I mean, that's, they call anybody out there to feed their employees anytime they want.
They can't do anything against it.
That's not open to the public.
Yeah, it's not open to the public. That's private.
It's business,
It's private.
but they're leaving
We
it.
can't, my understanding, you can't really regulate that if I remember right.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you cater
It's
anything.
not their fence, so you can't do nothing.
they cater it to them, that's all they do.
I don't think it's private inside their fence.
Even if it's for profit.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's catering. We have local businesses that are benefiting from the same thing, though, that they are delivering plate lunches, considered catering.
They don't have to come outside to get people.
That's the problem anyway, so at dinner time, they can't leave anyway. They don't want to get at these little places to eat, and for salesmen and people looking for work, because they can't leave. And when they leave, they go home.
I tell you where a lot of people are eating, the dollar store.
I was gonna, I have
5 Vienna sausage spaghettios. Right.
Ryan King, the sanitarian for DHH and for the parish is here, if you wanted to address that question to him.
Do we have any other questions? Are you guys ready to go through the agenda?
About your private companies going in.
Oh, it's me, Ryan. Ryan, can they do that? If they license and they have the right, trailer?
Well, if you have a parish ordinance that says no, you can't.
But I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, as the ordinance is right now, it doesn't allow for mobile food vendors at all. So
Even if they go on private property?
it's a mobile food vendor that's permitted by DHH, by our office. So the simple answer is no.
Okay,
Right now, they're not supposed to.
okay.
But if they're caterers, if they're
Yes,
a privately
food truck.
contracted caterer.
Caterer is different. You talk about a food
I
truck.
think the biggest difference would be that because they would be selling to the individual.
Because they mobile.
If the company wanted to bring it in here and say, we're gonna feed jobs.
Yeah.
No issue.
Yeah.
But if they're selling it to the individual.
I mean, I know that Canix goes in and they'll cook a big cook for them, but that's just for
But a
the
company pays for the whole
That's
thing.
company catering, right?
Caterer.
That's catering.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna ask y'all to please consider all these. They're easy.
Well, I just wanted to stress that it's, I'm good with it as long as it stays in Holly Beach.
It would have to come before the jury for it to be expanded to other communities. Do you have any other discussion about permit or agenda items?
Yeah, on the permits, where it says no permit, for all, for pipeline and drilling, G, N, and O is gonna have to be, there is three.
Yeah, it needs to be under drilling and pipeline permits.
So they, where it says none,
Okay,
That's seven, that's.
we'll fix that.
yeah.
We know what those are.
G is Marquee Resources. Marquee Resources LLC, is that right? G. G.
G or B?
G.
I think goat. G.
N and O. Hard energy and hard energy are N and O.
Where's that flow line gonna be located at? Where's that? Where's that going, Pierce?
Black Light.
Here. When I fix the Allen's
Oh, that's Grand Lake Field. That's water body.
Where at?
Grand Lake. Water body. Grand Lake.
Oh, it's in the water.
I guess I need something.
Wow, I mean, it's coming through there.
We got a question on our heads, on the agenda? If not,
We have two items, resolution of support for rail feasibility study and authority to advertise to change our parish ordinance to match the state statute for library board member.
Also, 7 minutes ago, y'all seen the notice? Cameron Ferry will suspend service throughout today until tomorrow, March 11th, 2020, until 12 noon. Maintenance inspection.
it's been a night you have.
Cameron Ferry. Yeah, maintenance, supposed